Welcome to Capricorn season. We are going to explore the energies of Capricorn, how we as the collective can tap into the energy of Capricorn. And we're going to go through your personalized astrology for the month ahead, January 2022. This is going to be timestamped below and will be read for greater accuracy through the rising sign position. Without further ado, let's get into it. Capricorn season. What do we need to know about Saturn, the 10th house, Capricorn, the sea goat? Well, if astrology truly was discovered in the Northern Hemisphere, then it seems symbolic to me that all the qualities that describe Capricorn also describe enduring winter. So everything that Capricorn embodies are things that we need to survive the tests and the cold, dark winter nights. That doesn't mean if you're a Capricorn born in the Southern Hemisphere that you do not embody the traits of enduring winter or Capricorn. It's just that it's a nice way to kind of see the archetypes come alive like that. So for winter, we make things last, we endure, we pool our resources, we ration, we prepare, we plan, we conserve, and we even reuse. Is winter necessarily mean? Sometimes Capricorn can be thought of as mean, or does winter and Capricorn simply just not care? Survival of the fittest can trigger people in our kind of coddled society where everybody is a winner and you just have to do your best. Well, survival of the fittest is real. The fittest are able to look at the current reality with a cold and stern eye, and then they adjust. Capricorn calculates. So Sagittarius season just passed. That has given us the hope, the optimism, given us a peek into the light that will come again. After winter must come spring. But if you're born with the duty of Capricorn, you know you're not the type that just lands on your feet like a Jupiter-ruled Sagittarius or Pisces with endless good luck and opportunity. That's just not Saturn's child's vibe, is it, Capricorn? No, you don't cut corners. No, you don't take uncalculated risks hoping for the best. If we are surviving winter, we don't take those kind of foolish risks. Those who prepare to fail, those who fail to prepare for the tough times, the cold times, the hard times, well, we know what happens there. You prepare to fail. So this Capricorn season, let's collectively think about our rainy day fund. Let's make plans. Let's speak out into existence what we have already as our skills, as our resources. Let's train, let's master, let's dedicate. And then guess what, you guys? In 2022, the people who have prepared will prevail. So we have Capricorn symbolized by the mythical sea goat. I don't know if we see any sea goats around in real life nowadays. Maybe there are. But as far as we know, this is a mythical creature, half goat, half fish. So what does that tell me? They can climb the highest mountain as a goat, scale deep depth, scale something very, very scary looking to a lot. Have you ever seen goats do that on the side of a mountain? It's very impressive. But Capricorn, half fish, can also swim the vastest lakes and dive deep into the ocean. That tells me that Capricorn is the sign of complete mastery of the realm that we exist in, both land and both the waters. So this is a very reasoning sign, a very resourceful, relentless, focused, logical sign. They hate waste. I see in this day and age in our society, Capricorns, of course, being the, let me say, climate warriors, the people that are most interested in sustainability. So Capricorn, I have also found, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn and Saturn represents government and status quo in as an archetype, I have found Okay, that Capricorn, because they are a sign that likes to act with integrity and at least likes to obey the law, even if there is some other motivation behind that. They're lawful, but that doesn't mean that they are so sweet and good. It's like more that they want to act with integrity, and they just don't want any sentencing. That's very important to a Capricorn, not to be like locked down like this, because they already kind of can do that to themselves, okay? So the signature astrological events of 2021 were a series of 3 exact Saturn, your ruling planet Capricorn if you're watching, and Uranus squares. So the planet Saturn, which archetypally in the collective of 2021 was representing the status quo, governments, restrictions, all of those things that we have experienced on the collective. Now, a square aspect between 2 planets is tension and a challenge to overcome. So as the status quo Saturn squares Uranus 3 times this year, it happened in February, it happened in June, and again on Christmas Eve, 24th of December 2021. Uranus is the rebellion against the status quo. Uranus is further out in the solar system, and although Saturn holds a superior position in its home other ruling planet Aquarius, Uranus is further out. Typically, the further out planet, let's say, wins. So we see this tension between the status quo and the rebellion against this. We see this in the form of protest against restrictions, okay? So that's been the biggest sort of signature for 2021. It does continue also in 2022, finalizing in the month of October. So those same themes of rebellion, progression, and to counteract the restriction and status quo and government limitations has been the signature of 2021. So Saturn is your ruling planet. That doesn't mean that Capricorn season has to be boring, nor are Capricorns boring. They have a very, very dark sense of humor. And once they're out and they're socializing, they can really frolic. Have you ever seen a goat play? They're very mischievous, they frolic. Even Pan here. He was very well known to frolic with the nymphs, and he loved an orgy. So there is a sort of darkness there, and Capricorn is in touch with the wild side of life. The sea goat, when not working and resourcing and applying logic as the goat, when it is in the fish energy, the duality of Capricorn, this fish and sea goat can explore deep waters. When you separate the fact that Capricorn is an earth sign, the goat, but you have to remember the other half is a fish, magical, mystical, sensitive. They're not really words that we associate with Capricorn in pop astrology. However, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, the final 3 signs of the zodiac, are really when the mythical magic happens, okay? Because we have come to a wiser old age in our life at this point. We've transcended what we have seen to be just base reality. We can see that there's actually something more. So at whim, Capricorn can seem to just abandon all their duty, all their responsibility and reason, and just sort of slip into the hedonistic waters of partying, the unknown and magic. Capricorn seems to almost enjoy hard things. Duties, a sense of purpose, are duties to the soul. Capricorn is a sign of integrity, so typically morally wants to do the right thing. Is that always accessible for Capricorn? No. That's why I have found, I don't know if you agree with me or not, I have found if we're talking about the Saturn-Uranus square theme of Saturn being the government restrictions and the status quo we're currently experiencing on the collective, I have noticed that Capricorns follow the rules more, follow the restrictions, follow the guidelines, do the right thing. Okay, maybe you disagree, but just in my anecdotal experience, that's not going to apply to all Capricorns out there. I'm sure there's some rebels out there too. But Capricorn season reminds us that we all have a great work to perfect in this lifetime. That might even just be that work might be ourselves. It might be parenthood. It might be a novel. Whatever it may be, Capricorn asks us to wisely choose our mountain to climb. Conserve your energy and efforts and apply them to the true goal. When we find, if you hear somebody, they're not screaming in pain out there, there must have been, my boyfriend is watching the darts. Somebody must have missed a 180, I don't know. But we all find all of our energy and effort when it's applied to meaningless work that drains our mental health hugely. Capricorn season asks us to differentiate what unfilling labor is. If we have no love for the job, if we have no love for the task, then it's going to drain us. Capricorn doesn't try to be good at everything. We don't see the jack of all trades here like we would with Gemini. They are purposeful and they abhor wasted anything. So we're asking now in the first month of 2022. Actually, I would like to tell you guys something. From an astrological point of view, the January 1st is not the new year. That was the Gregorian calendar, I believe, or do they call it Georgian calendar? I think I read that word and I never sound it out. I'm just like, the Georgian calendar, I know what that means. So Gregorian, I think. That's the 1st of January is Happy New Year. In fact, on a personal level, the day that the sun passes from the 12th house into the 1st house sign, that is your new year. So for example, I'm a Libra rising. That would mean that the first day that the sun leaves Virgo and enters the Libra constellation, the first day of Libra season, as a Libra rising, that is my personal brand new year. We die in the 12th house, metaphorically. We're reborn in the 1st house, metaphorically. 1st house is your rising. Okay, so where was I going with that? Oh yes, so we ask now, people are very much geared socially and conditioned socially to set goals around the new year. It's a reset and there's nothing wrong with a reset. That's a great way to sort of get into a mindset of achieving goals. But we're trying to find our purpose, right? It doesn't have to be our lifelong purpose. It could be our purpose for the month, our purpose for the year. But this Capricorn season, look into the mirror, meditate, ask these questions aloud and command your subconscious mind to give you the answers and trust what those answers are. Why am I here? What do I want to do? And how am I going to do it? Trust the answers that come to you. The mystical Capricorn is highly sensitive. They don't often show their psychic ability or their spiritual tendencies. For Capricorn, this is more of a private matter rather than an act of service. Capricorn is the elder. Saturn represents old age. The 10th house is the house of Capricorn, associated in the natal birth chart. So that's public image, reputation, long-lasting results, longevity, the career, the vocation, the calling, the purpose. So we're trying to tap into these energies during Capricorn season. Capricorn energy gives us the motivation to do what we don't want to do. Really try to find this season the work that you enjoy doing and reap the rewards of completing hard graft. So we want to find meaningful goals and purposes. That aids in our mental health. Check where you're stuck in a loop of grafting, where you've actually just really outgrown that. Figure out what you deem to be most important, the most important body of work, your great work to complete this season, to complete this year or in your lifetime. We mature in Capricorn season. In fact, I've noticed this. Have you guys noticed this? I think Capricorn is the Benjamin Button, born like an old person. I was watching this meme the other day and it was like, what it's like having a Capricorn child, and they had put in like an obnoxious amount of balloons into the child's bedroom. And it was really cute, like the child opened the door, 5th birthday, and all the balloons like just kind of overwhelmed them, and they were like, oh, for the love of God, like a 5-year-old talking like an old man or woman. But as Capricorn matures, Saturn's children, Capricorn and Aquarius, know about kind of like duty from a young age. They know about hard work and they kind of enjoy hard work and feeling this sense of purpose. But as Capricorn has bestowed wisdom on its children from a young age and a real sense of duty duty, responsibility. That can feel like hard work at a young age. The Capricorns I've seen mature and get older have actually turned out to be so childlike, full of wonder, full of curiosity. They ripen like Benjamin Button, start out like an older person, and as they grow in age, they become more childlike, they become more playful, and they really resemble that in old age. And I have been lucky enough to see that. So yeah, let me know if you think about that, or if you feel as a Capricorn you're starting to kind of see that this Saturnian reality and construct is nothing more than a construct, that we actually are just divine beings that are here to fall in love and play and create, make art. Commit to one great work. It doesn't have to make you money to embody the divine. Capricorn energy, they want us to have a mission. The 10th house is the house of mission. What is your 2022 mission? We make New Year resolutions, yeah, but it makes sense that we're not searching for meaning in a spiritual sense, but we could be. We're looking to fulfill a goal when we make these resolutions. We find our personal and professional meaning for the year ahead. If we accomplish our great work, we are embodying Capricorn's commitment. Okay, you guys, have a wonderful Capricorn season. Some sure hard work can feel like a graft, can feel like a burden. There is so much reward to reap. We reap there too. Let's get into the personalized astrology right away. I'm going to start with Aries rising, okay? So Aries rising, let's see, we start, the theme for Aries rising is pretty much career for January 2022, okay? There's a lot of focus in this 10th house in Capricorn for Aries rising. This is your Capricorn 10th house. But before we get to that, 2022 for Aries rising is a sign of a spiritual renaissance, is a time of a spiritual renaissance, a time for deepening your connection to the divine within you. That's what that's all about. Jupiter will be in your 12th house of spirituality and connection to the divine for the majority of 2022. This is the year for Aries rising, most likely to experience spiritual awakening. The new moon, however, in Capricorn on the 2nd of January in your 10th house represents a new beginning or a door opening around career and public image. So this new moon is making a harmonious trine aspect to unpredictable Uranus in your 2nd house of money and resources. It's possible for a pleasant surprise around your finances at the beginning of the month. Maybe your boss tells you you're getting a raise. Maybe you have another source of income coming in and it's kind of unexpected to you. Effort applied to group commitments is seen now too. So if you want to prioritize commitments that you have with groups or friends or teams you're a part of, this is a really good time to do this, because Mars in your 9th house is sextiling Saturn in your 11th house of all these groups and friends and acquaintances. So you could really do well with putting some focus around like prioritizing working with groups at this time. There is a very beneficial blessing in your 10th house of career between around the 8th and 10th of the month. The Sun and Venus come together and conjoin in your 10th house in Capricorn at that time. This could be a bonus in your job. This could be getting ahead and something being blown up in your career in a positive way. Mercury stations retrograde in your 11th house from around the 14th of January for the rest of the month. This is when there could be more likelihood for miscommunications coming up with groups of friends, teams, organizations, societies you're a part of. From the 15th to the 17th of January, I'm putting this as the most intense part of January for the collective. The Sun and Pluto are transformative agent of intensity, survival, life and death come together in your 10th house of career between the 15th and 17th of January. This is seeking to transform an element in your career. You have a lot of energy towards your calling at this time, but watch out for manipulation and power struggles coming to the light now in a bigger way thanks to Pluto and the Sun just exposing that overall. You will start to see between the 15th and the 17th of January January if there is anybody that is working at cross purposes or working against you, especially around your reputation and career. At the same time, on the 17th of January, there is a full moon in Cancer, marking a high point, a turning point, or a culmination in your 4th house of home and living situation, who you live with, roommates, or family. So you may see some sort of an ending come up there at this time. Around the 28th of January, Mercury, while retrograde, comes also to conjoin with our big transformative agent Pluto, Mercury, planet of communication. It's likely that there will be some very revelatory communications in your career and public reputation life. This could look like a very shocking email being sent. This could look like somebody telling their boss or telling you, oh my God, I've been sleeping with the CEO, okay? So something quite transformational, something quite revelatory could come up around your career. So if there's any time that you want or that you're going to blurt something out, that this could be the time around the 28th of January. You're having a serious and exposing conversation. Venus, after her 40-day retrograde in Capricorn, finally stations direct on the 29th of January. You are ready to move forward now in your career with redefined values and a greater sense of self-worth. Aries rising, enjoy 2022. Have a great year, have a great start to the year, and good luck and see you soon. All right, Taurus rising, let's get into yours. So travel plans and dreams are fulfilled this month. There is a huge focus on your 9th house of higher education, long distance travel, spirituality, philosophy, religion, and education. Before that though, the month opens with Jupiter blessing your house of friendship, groups, teams, and organizations, the 11th house. For the whole year, Taurus rising of 2022, it is likely that you will see expansion, growth, optimism, and new opportunities to make friends, to align with societies, groups, organizations, and teams, and to really expand your wishes, your goals, and aspirations that outreach to a community level. That's what the signature for you with Jupiter transiting your 9th house this year is going to look like. However, on the 2nd of January, at the beginning of the month, there is a new moon in your Capricorn 9th house. This is kind of assisting you with the initiation of travel plans this year, as well as like new beginnings in studies or vacations. The new moon is trining Uranus in your 1st house, which is Taurus, of course, Taurus rising. So expressing how you want to be seen, or sudden developments around travel plans or study plans could also come through at the start of the month, around the 2nd. Mars transiting your Sagittarius 8th house, sextiling Saturn in your 10th house of career. Mars is putting extra focus then on creating intimate connections with the people you meet in your career life around the 2nd of the month. You have the energy to prioritize a long-term career goals now. Around the 8th to the 10th of January, there is a benefic Sun-Venus conjunction in your 9th house. This could look like some sort of a blessing coming through in your college course and what you're studying. It could look like you winning a vacation even, or some sort of blessings around travel coming up or fulfilling your dreams. The 14th of January begins our Mercury retrograde, which will take place for the rest of the month from the 14th of January in your 10th house. So keep your communication around 10th house matters like career, public image, and reputation very concise and clear at this time. Also avoid signing major career contracts at this time too, if that's possible. So this is where things get really intense around the 15th to the 17th of January. The Sun and Pluto being our most transformative agent, life and death, survival and rebirth. The Sun is shining a light on these themes in your 9th house. So this could kind of look like something like you're up against something around like some sort of a power struggle around trying to achieve a goal around traveling or study or your education, or even like you're seeing this on a more collective level, like power struggles, manipulation can come up with Sun Pluto alignments, and for 9th house topics, maybe like you're seeing like this in terms of like politics or religion or something like that, and it's kind of giving you the ick. So yeah, basically then the full full moon in Cancer directly after that is happening in your third house. So this is representing like a high point, a turning point around the lives of your siblings, perhaps around your education, around travel plans. Something could be culminating or coming to like a closing point. So Mercury is retrograde at this point around the 28th of January still, and it's in Capricorn, coming to now join Pluto. So we've had we've had Mercury joining Pluto, and we've had the Sun joining Pluto. Mercury is all about communication, conversations. This could be a very revelatory or exposing conversation, truth bombs being dropped around like you telling people how you really feel, people you study with, people who you have travel plans with. You could be saying things like, I'm about to, you could be announcing on social media your travel plans. You could be saying, I'm about to quit my job so I can just go backpack around Asia. Whatever you say now carries the possibility of change and an intense alterations of circumstances around the 17th. Around the 28th, my bad. Once Venus stations direct on the 29th in your 9th house again, after a 40-day retrograde, you may be closer to figuring out where you want to move to, where you want to study, what country you want to visit. Perhaps now your values and your worldview have fundamentally changed in the past 6 weeks. Okay, Taurus rising, that is your astrology for the month of January. Have a great month. Gemini rising, this is your astrology for January 2022. 2022 is a high point in your career and public image overall for the year. This is due to Jupiter, planet of expansion and optimism, enlarging your 10th house of public reputation and public image and career. But before that, we have a new moon happening on the 2nd of January. This is happening in Gemini rising's 8th house of death, rebirth, sex, intimacy. So it's opening, the new moon is new energy, opening the door to opportunities for investments, acquiring wealth, but also for greater intimacy and rawness in your inner circle or in your sex life. Mars is transiting your 7th house of romantic relationships at this time and business partnerships until the 25th of January. You might, especially if you're born before sunset, have experienced more strife, tension, or just things heating up in a really big way in your romantic relationships at this time. So Saturn in your 9th house, you initiate travel plans with your boo thing, you put efforts into joint study or, commitments like that. On the 14th of January, Mercury stations retrograde in your 9th house. Be careful about miscommunications arising with those who you study or work with. This is in the 9th house of long distance travel. So from now until next month, be sure to triple check travel plans and make sure take your time when booking and organizing things. I would avoid during this Mercury retrograde in your 9th house, enrolling in college now or planning a trip until February when stations direct again, if that's possible. The most intense time of the month for the collective, I think, is going to be around the 15th to the 17th of January. At this time, we're looking back at your 8th house again, Gemini rising, to where Capricorn is. So we've got Pluto and the Sun forming a conjunction together in the sign of Capricorn on these days, reaching a crescendo of intensity for you at this point of the month. You will become at this time very aware of any manipulation or undercurrents like that in your energy field right now. You might start to see about how there's been manipulation in terms of like if you're owed any inheritance or if you share resources with somebody, you're starting to see like, oh, okay, they've been messing me around there potentially. Okay, so you become keenly aware then of any of this manipulation around the 15th to the 17th. You can feel like taking on bigger challenges around securing the bag at this time, and you feel greater ambition around creating generational wealth. So make sure that this doesn't manifest as exploiting others to get ahead right now, because you're going to feel more highly ambitious. To add to the intensity of this part of the month, there is a full moon directly after in Cancer on the 17th of the month. This is happening in your 2nd house of money. So this is marking a high point or culmination phase in how you're making money, how you're acquiring assets, skills, or skills that you've been working on upgrading at this time. The 28th of the month, it brings around a very intense or possibly revelatory conversation around 8th house topics like earnings, sex, or even death. When Pluto and Mercury retrograde combine in the sky, you better believe that the communication from Mercury is going to be more intense, more revelatory, truth bombs galore, okay? You could be like talking about what you've been desiring with your partner sexually, even asking for more money, or talking about an issue even of mortality. This is sexy, but it's a lot. I'm thinking like dirty talk or being willing to open up about demons. Venus stations direct on the 29th, again in this 8th house for you. So some of you have been thinking deeply about your values in relation to sex, money, living and dying, inheritance, or about what's buried in your unconscious mind in January. The direct motion finally of Venus going direct has you applying these redefined and reimagined and reaffirmed values in real life. Okay, Gemini rising, have a great month, have a great 2022. I'll see you soon. Okay, Cancer rising. So this is your astrology for the month of January. You're entering overall 2022 with expansive, generous Jupiter in your 9th house. This could manifest of a year of greater freedom overall for you. The 9th house is to do with freedom of movement, travel, higher education, and exploration. This could be the year where you explore, you graduate, you enter higher education, or start considering it more deeply. The possibilities really are endless with Jupiter. So the 2nd of the month of January, we see a new moon in Capricorn, and this is in your 7th house, Cancer rising, of romantic relationships and business partnerships. The biggest focus of January overall for Cancer rising is romantic relationships. There's a lot going on in the 7th house. So we start with the new moon there. That is kind of opening a door or putting like more of a focus on your love life overall and sort of new possibilities emerging there. This new moon on the 2nd actually trines Uranus in your 11th house of friend group. So maybe you're introducing your boo, your 7th house boo, to your group of friends in the 11th house for the first time. Maybe like a pleasant surprise happens right now around your friends and your romantic partner, and some goal or group endeavor around now. Overall, exciting new energy in these areas of life at the start of the month. There then is a very positive and let me say, beneficial alignment of the Sun and Venus forming together in your 7th house of romantic relationships. You make something more official with somebody, something good comes through, basically just a blessing in your love life, I'm seeing that as. But then Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Aquarius 8th house. This wouldn't be a good time to file taxes during this part of the year. The 8th house deals with taxes. Mercury retrograde represents overall malfunction with communication. So try to wait until that stations direct in the month of February. You could kind of put your foot in it or say something which was supposed to be a joke about like sex or death, and it's like really misinterpreted as quite offensive potentially around this Mercury retrograde. Okay, so then as we move on, we are seeing basically, I see the most intense part of the month being around the 15th to the 17th of January for the collective. This is happening again, Cancer rising, in your Capricorn 7th house of romantic relationships. This is when you're going to be becoming aware of any like manipulation around you from a romantic partner or business partner or best friend, or how potentially you're manipulating, or kind of, it's going to bring a light to, the Sun will be shining a light on Plutonian influences in your love life, which is like power struggles, all those kind of things like that. Okay, so this is kind of like an intense part of your relationship. Okay, directly after that Cancer rising, there is a Cancer full moon on the 17th of December, and this is happening, of course, in your 1st house. This is kind of marking a pivotal turning point, or some sort of a like high point in how you express yourself to the world. You might say, I'm not doing that anymore. I am changing my whole look. I'm not going by that kind of identity anymore. So there's something coming up there. Again, we're back to your 7th house by the 28th of January with, again, more focus on your romantic relationship. This is when Mercury is retrograde and forms to conjoin again with another Pluto conjunction this month. Pluto, they're very intense, very intense alignments. They do happen quickly though, good thing for that. But Mercury, planet of communication, while retrograde, is just creating now a greater likelihood for miscommunication in your romantic relationships around the 28th of the month. You could have a fight, you could have an argument, you could blurt something out, you could say something that really highlights some sort of a power struggle or manipulative dynamic that exists within the relationship. Okay, but the 29th, directly after that, Venus is ending her 40-day retrograde in your 7th house, Capricorn again, Cancer rising. You have just been through a very intense relationship chapter at this point. It's likely that the purpose of this particular Venus retrograde through your 7th house of romantic relationships was reaffirming or redefining in a significant relationship. And this is going to now assist you moving forward with this area of your life with greater clarity about what it is that you truly want. Leo rising. Okay, so basically the year 2022, Jupiter will be in your 8th house, your Pisces 8th house. So this is a 2022 story for you around expansion of your wealth, investments, shared resources, debts, but also in regards to like very intimate, raw relationships with others. That's the 2022 story for you, Leo. But let's get to January. The new moon in Capricorn opens a window on the 2nd of January, and it lights up a possibility in your 6th house area of life. The 6th house area of life rules physical health and fitness. It rules our daily routine, our work, our day job, the people we work with, like our colleagues. So a large part of January focus will be around 6th house topics for Leo rising this time. So this might be, with this new moon, like a really good time to initiate some sort of a fitness regimen or to initiate something to do with your physical body and health. This will really have good long-lasting results if initiated around the positive new moon window and opening. The new moon is trining Uranus, which is in your 10th house at the moment. So this is maybe when you see around the 2nd of the month, like a possibility or a surprise development around career advancement. And now too, the Sun and Venus then form a benefic conjunction in your 6th house around the 8th to the 10th of January. So this could just look like positive vibes with your health, with your fitness, with your colleagues, and with work day to day. You might go into work on one of these days and they like have told you, take the afternoon off, or you don't really have a full schedule, or just some sort of a like positive development, or they might be telling you like something that you want to hear, some good news. This will be different for everybody. Mercury stations retrograde in your 7th house of romantic relationships and business partnerships, which is Aquarius for you, Leo rising, on the 14th of January, and will be retrograde for the rest of the month. This is the area of life, like romantic relationships, business partnerships, or any kind of contracts we sign that we can expect possible miscommunication. So I would avoid signing any important contracts for marriage, for business. It just wouldn't be advised during a 7th house Mercury retrograde. Okay, so around the 15th to the 17th of January, this seems to be the most intense and transformational part of January for me overall, for the collective. The Sun will be meeting up with Pluto in the sky in your 6th house of Capricorn in a conjunction. This is a kind of perhaps revealing power dynamics. Pluto's all about manipulation and power struggle, and the Sun is very revealing and shines a light on. So around the 15th to 17th, you might start sort of seeing like where the power struggles exist in your work, and you might start seeing like some manipulation even, or you've been told something, you have kind of like more energy to work out even, or something like that, or just physically do something. Right after that though, on the 17th, there is a Cancer full moon, which is in your 12th house of mental health and spirituality and connection to the divine. So around this, full moons represent turning point, culminations and endings, or pivotal high points. This would maybe mark some sort of a spiritual breakthrough around the 17th, or deepening your connection to yourself as a divine being, or you say, look, that's the end of that in regards to something in relation to your mental. Leo rising, you can expect more drama around the 28th in relation to your work colleagues, your fitness regime, if that's come up for you. This is when Pluto and Mercury now join together. Mercury is retrograde at this point. So we are going to be expecting like massive revelations, truth bombs, people really saying what they think around now. The 29th is the gestation direct finally of Venus after her 40-day retrograde in your 6th house again. Leo rising, your Capricorn 6th house. Now after this 29th of January point, you are clearly moving forward with a plan in place around your health, your fitness, and your redefined and reaffirmed values about how you intend to structure your daily and weekly routine. Have a great month, Leo rising, and see you soon. This is going to be now for Virgo rising. A very, very fun month ahead with a lot of focus on your Capricorn 5th house, Virgo rising. But basically this year is starting and kind of has an overall tone of Jupiter in the 7th house. So for Virgo rising, Jupiter will be in your Pisces 7th house of relationships, romantic and business partnerships for the majority of the year. So expect a year overall of growth, abundance, and new opportunity around 7th house issues like romantic relationships, business partnerships, and contracts overall. But for January, the spotlight is for sure on your 5th house of dating, romance, fun, gambling, creative self-expression, and passions and children if you have them. The new moon on the 2nd of January is the opening for romance. Getting yourself maybe on a dating app could be really good. You'd be surprised who you'd meet. This new moon, because it beneficially trines the shocking Uranus in your 9th house of travel, you might make a random trip, stumble upon a random research topic, walk into a house of worship randomly. This is all possible that like you meet somebody or you have some fun doing this too. A positive Sun and Venus coming together in your 5th house, Virgo rising, is happening as a conjunction on the 8th to around the 10th of the month. This looks like a blessing in your romantic or creative self-expression somehow. Mercury stations retrograde on the 14th of January, and that will be there like that for the rest of the month in your 6th house of daily routine. So there could be a miscommunication there with a colleague or your staff if you happen to be the boss. Avoid maybe committing to a very serious health or fitness regime, which makes you like sign a long-term commitment that you might want to be getting out of after the Mercury retrograde is over. So I would say no real commitments during the Mercury retrograde if it can be avoided. For me, the most intense part of the month for the collective is occurring around the 15th to the 17th of January. There is a Sun joining Pluto. So Pluto is extremely transformational. It's the only planet I would say transformation occurs with. It's also like all about power struggles, manipulation, obsession. So with the Sun shining a light on this in your sort of 6th house, this is kind of, or your 5th house rather, this is going to highlight around the 15th to the 17th any kind of like power struggles, manipulation in your life, like your sex life, your dating life, and even your life with your children if you have them. This is a time when manipulation can basically just be the most obvious. Directly after that, there is a full moon on the 17th of January in your Cancer 11th house. This is a high point or a turning point around 11th house issues like groups of friends. This could be like something to do with a team or a society you're part of, an organization where you're ending something or you're reaching a turning point on it. Around the 28th of January is another intense and revelatory moment. Retrograde Mercury at this time around the 28th now is conjoining Pluto. So this will be, Mercury is all about expression. This would be like with Pluto's influence, like a very dramatic outburst, an outburst though of creative self-expression, which is really kind of like out there. You could be telling your children the truth about something if that applies. Think very exposing words, truth bombs that may have a manipulative tone. When Venus moves forward with reaffirmed desire with dating or have redefined how you value expressing yourself creatively overall at this point. Basically for Virgo rising, the whole focus is on fun, letting loose during the month of January 2022. Libra rising, January 2022. So overall, this is the month where the focus is going to be on themes of your home and living situation, who you live with, and of course your family, all of these fourth house topics. But for the year 2022, Libra rising, Jupiter will be transiting your sixth house of daily routine, work, colleagues, and physical health and vitality. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, growth, generosity, and opportunity. This suggests to me that 2022 is going to be a year of expansion and growth for you in these areas of life, Libra rising. However, coming back to January, on the 2nd of January, there is a new moon in your fourth house of home, family, property, and living situation. This is trining Uranus in your eighth house. Eighth house is all to do with wealth and inheritance. It is possible that around the 2nd of January, you see some sort of a surprise and pleasant surprise. I'm thinking around inheritance or shared resources, or like property or something like that. That's coming up really strongly. The new moon is opening a new beginning in terms of who you live with, in terms of property, and in terms of your family. The 8th to the 10th of the month is a very beneficial time, full of blessings, when the Sun and Venus join together again in your Capricorn fourth house of home and living situation, family, all of those things. So this could be just coming home and your roommates have cooked you a dinner. This could be coming home and there's a bouquet of flowers there for you. This could be something like beneficial around a property that you own, or you get some good news about your family, your parents, or where you're coming from. There is a Mercury retrograde then in your fifth house that's starting on the 14th of the month, and it's going to continue for the whole month, Libra rising. So this is going to come up with some miscommunications or delays around a hobby of yours, a passion project of yours. If you have children, you may say something that you don't really mean to say or misunderstand them as well. The most intense part of the month for the collective seems to be around the 15th to the 17th, when the Sun meets up in Capricorn again in this fourth house of yours, with Pluto. So the Sun and Pluto together in the fourth house, Capricorn, for you, Libra rising. So this is when there could be very obvious power struggles or manipulations coming to the forefront around your family. Your family might be trying to manipulate you or control you, you may perceive, or this could even look like a greater energy applied to you, getting ahead, buying a property, something like that, being very assertive with those that you live with. Watch out for any kind of exploitation or exploiting somebody at this time. The 17th of the month is continuing to be intense after this Sun-Pluto conjunction, but this is seeing a full moon in the sign of Cancer in the 10th house of career. So for Libra rising, your 10th house is your career, public reputation, and your self-image. So this is representing some sort of a high point around your career, or some sort of an ending or turning point around your reputation or your career in general. On the 28th of January, a retrograde Mercury will be joining that intense Pluto again in your fourth house of home and living, family, situation, and property, Libra rising. So this is kind of going to be some sort of a revelatory conversation around these topics. You could have a very confronting or exposing conversation with a family member or a roommate or a person that you live with currently. There could be some sort of let's say, development around property at this time too. Just beware of getting involved in any sort of manipulation. It could become very obvious around this time of the month. On the 29th of January, Venus stations direct again in your fourth house. This would be telling me that over the last 40 days until the 29th of January, Libra rising, you've been having some reconsiderations about where it is that you're laying down roots, fourth house, where you want to live. And so now it might be true that after this retrograde, and from the 29th of January onwards, you're moving forward in the world with a clearer sense of where you want to live, where you want to have property, where you want to move to, and who you want to live with. Okay, Libra rising, a big focus on family matters, family concerns this month for January 2022. Okay, Scorpio rising. Jupiter is in your fifth house for most of 2022. This is going to be a time of expansion, new opportunities, generosity, and growth happening in fifth house topics like dating, like romance, like fun, hobbies, creative self-expression, or children if you have them. That's the 2022 story for you, Scorpio rising. So, however, On the 2nd of January, we see a new moon in your 3rd house, trining Uranus in your 7th house. So for January 2022, Scorpio rising, your main focus is on 3rd house issues. 3rd house issues are siblings, communication, short distance travel, plans like trips, short trips, courses, fields of study, taking short kind of educational bursts and things like that. So with the 2nd house new moon in terms of communication, it's opening up some sort of a window for like discussion of travel plans or discussion of like, oh, maybe I should go and learn this. It's trining Uranus in the 7th house. Uranus is more shock in nature, but a trine is harmonious. This is like a pleasant surprise. 7th house is romantic relationships or business partnerships. You get in touch with somebody, you start texting somebody, you start communicating with somebody that you'd like to date, or you get some sort of a surprise communication from a business partnership of yours, which requires you to take a trip or to learn something new. Around the 8th to the 10th of the month of January, this is when we're seeing like positive blessings occur in your 3rd house. The Sun and Venus join together, so some sort of a pleasant or benefic energy around maybe the lives of your siblings. Maybe it'll be around the something in your community, like a new coffee shop opens up in your local neighborhood and you're really happy to go and check it out. Something nice, something positive around 3rd house topics, siblings, education, trips, travel, but also your local community, let's say, aka your hood. The 14th of the month, we're going to be seeing at this point a Mercury retrograde beginning in your 4th house of home and living situation, parents, roommates, or properties that you own. So there could be a greater likelihood of miscommunication with parents at this time for you Scorpio rising. This is going to be retrograde from the 14th of January for the rest of the month. I would avoid signing any contracts around a deed for a house or buying a property also. Around the 15th to the 17th of the month represents for me the most intense part of January for the collective overall. That is the time where the Sun is going to be conjoining with Pluto in your, again, 3rd house. So this is the Sun shining a light on any Plutonian issues in your 3rd house. Plutonian issues are manipulation, control, obsession, power struggle, power dynamics. So at this time, you're going to become aware of any like power dynamics that exist with you, between you and your siblings, perhaps. You might be starting to become aware of like how you're feeling pressured into learning a certain something or going to a certain place or taking some sort of a trip. But just watch out overall for manipulation around this time of the month, 15th to the 17th. Directly after this, on the 17th again, there is a full moon in Cancer. Full moons are heightened periods of emotion and intensity anyways, but this is happening in your Scorpio rising Cancer 9th house. More travel energy. There's like a high point around a long distance travel, maybe something that you initiated on the 2nd of the month. Some travel plans are now coming to fuller fruition by the 17th of the month. People have given you the resources that you need to make this trip happen or something like that. So there's like a high point around your education around the 17th of the month. Maybe like you achieve something in your college course or something like that. The 28th of the month, we have Mercury, which is retrograde still at this point, conjoining with Pluto again. Well, if Mercury is malfunctioning at this time and Mercury is the planet of communication, coming up to join this powerhouse Pluto, which is all about obsession and power struggles and manipulation, let's expect some very exposing conversations, some very revelatory truth bombs coming out in our life. Again, in your 3rd house, this could be a sibling telling you something. This could be something like you hear about something happening in your neighborhood and you're like, what? I can't believe they're building a dump here or something like that. But something that comes out like that has more of a like transformative tone to this kind of statement or communication around the 28th of January. But on the 29th of January, we end the month with Venus finally ending her 40-day retrograde period and moving direct in your 3rd house. This has marked until the 29th of January, this 40-day period has been a time for you to reevaluate your values around 3rd house issues. How do you communicate? What kind of information do you take in? How much time do you spend on social media? And also like you're kind of, maybe you've had like some sort of a reassessment period around a relationship with a sibling, and now it's starting to move forward where both your boundaries or your values are being respected at this time. Okay, Scorpio rising, a couple ways those transits could manifest for you. I hope you have a great month in January and a happy new year to you. Okay, who have we got next? We've got Sagittarius rising now. So the 2022 story for Sagittarius rising looks like Jupiter transiting through the 4th house. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion, generosity, opportunity, and growth. So if that is transiting your 4th house of home and living situation, property, family, this month Sagittarius rising, or this year Sagittarius rising rather, we're going to see expansion in those themes and areas of your life. Let's bring it back to January for now. So the month starts with a new moon in Capricorn on the 2nd of the month, and Capricorn is in your 2nd house of finances, resources, and assets. This is trining Uranus in your 6th house of work, colleagues. So I have a feeling around the 2nd of the month, your resources, your money, and something beneficial and surprise or random might happen with some colleagues, like teaming up with somebody, bringing in surprise money, or teaming up with a new group of people, being put on a different team, or something to do with work and colleagues, but it's all beneficial and it's kind of like a pleasant surprise. Between the 8th and the 10th of the month, there is going to be some sort of a beneficial enhancement for you in your 2nd house of money, resources, assets, and skills. So the 2nd house doesn't just have to be money, it typically is, but it could be like allies, it could be any resources we have, like our own skill set. But so the 8th to the 10th, the Sun and Venus join together here in this house for you. So I'm seeing some sort of a beneficial blessing coming through around 2nd house topics for you at this point. The 15th to the 17th of the month looks like it's going to be the most intense part of the month of January for the collective. The Sun and Pluto joining together in a conjunction in your 2nd house again of money. Okay, so this is a time where themes such as exploitation come up, manipulation, power struggles. You might start to think like, oh, is somebody taking advantage of me money-wise? Am I being kind of sold the short straw here? Is everything what it seems? Like, you have these questions. You also have a much more of a burning desire to accumulate money, to take control of your assets. This intensity continues directly after, again on the 17th, there is a Cancer full moon, and this is happening in your 8th house, Sagittarius rising in your Cancer 8th house. So the 8th house deals with intimacy, sex, death, rebirth, shared resources, and wealth. This is marking some sort of a high point in those areas of your life, or like a turning point or culmination phase. This could be like you had a joint bank account with somebody and you decide to close it this day and take the money. You could have had a business partnership with somebody and you've made enough money from it and you guys decide to take a little because you share this resources. This could also represent like an ending or a pivotal turning point in something to do with your sexuality or your intimate relationships. On the 28th of January, Mercury and Pluto then join together in the sky in the 2nd house for you, your Capricorn 2nd house for Sagittarius rising. So this is a very exposing conversation. Mercury retrograde will expose something with Pluto's influence that makes you think twice about money, that makes you think twice about assets and your wealth overall and your money. There could be like some themes of exploitation coming up in these conversations, and that could be present to you at this time. On the 29th of the month, however, Venus is finally moving direct after a 40-day retrograde in your 2nd house again. So like I said, Sagittarius rising January, it's all about the focus is on money and 2nd house issues like resources. Now, up until the 29th of January, there was a 40-day retrograde of Venus. And at that time during the retrograde, Venus is all about our values. We will have been reaffirming, redefining, and reassessing our values around money in particular. What is our relationship with money? What is our relationship with our resources? How can we basically make ourselves a resource, and how can we make ourselves the asset essentially? From the 29th of January onwards, you are now moving forward in the world with a clearer sense of what you are yourself as an asset or what you have to offer. Capricorn rising. So the theme of 2022 in terms of growth and expansion for Capricorn rising will be focused around the 11th house. Jupiter, planet of opportunity, expansion, growth and generosity, for the most part will be in your 11th house this year, Capricorn rising. The 11th house deals with teams, organizations, networks and groups of friends, the community at large, and also the community you create, and also your highest aspirations and goals. So we can really expect like a lot of expansion in that area of your life for 2022, which is great, Capricorn rising. So on the 2nd of the month, there is a new moon in the sign of Capricorn. So of course, this is going to be in your first house, Capricorn rising. The big focus of January is on the first house of self-expression, who I am, how I express myself to the world, and my sense of identity, you may be saying. This new moon is making a harmonious trine to a more shocking Uranus in the 5th house. And the 5th house is all about creative self-expression. So around the 2nd of the month, you may surprise people with how you are expressing yourself. You may even surprise yourself, but it's a support here. The trine is a support. So you have this feeling like you want to shock people in a sense, or you have some sort of a creative endeavor that like could really shock people, and you kind of want it to do that. You're really putting yourself out there and kind of putting yourself into like the public sector, or just like putting yourself out on center stage around the 2nd of the month for you, Capricorn rising. So around the 8th to the 10th of the month, there is a Venus and Sun coming together in the sign of Capricorn, which will be in your first house. This is a beneficial kind of blessing, kind of good vibes alignment. So I'm expecting like some sort of like you getting noticed, you having some sort of a beneficial spotlight put on you, and people seeing you in a really favorable light around the 8th to the 10th of the month. You're getting like noticed for who you are, and in a really positive way. There is going to be a Sun-Pluto conjunction, however, which is going to feel a lot more intense. This is happening around the 15th to the 17th of the month, and this is really the most intense part of January for me, for the collective. This again is happening in your Capricorn first house, and this is kind of going to be where you notice if there's been any like power struggles or manipulations around people telling you how you need to portray yourself to the world, people telling you who you truly are, other people trying to manipulate you or manipulate your image or something like that. This is all going to come to the forefront around the 15th to the 17th of the month. What else? You have a greater desire to kind of assert who you actually are to the world at this time. Directly after that, on the 17th of January, there is a full moon in Cancer. This is of course happening in your 7th house of romantic relationships and business partnerships and any contracts you sign. This is representing for some sort of an ending, turning point, culmination phase in one of these kinds of relationships, romantic, business. It could also represent a high point, or when we've reached a crescendo on something and there's the most exposure on it around the 17th of the month. On the 28th of the month, Mercury, while being retrograde, is coming to join with Pluto in a conjunction, again in your Capricorn first house, Capricorn rising. This is when you could say something that really denotes like a kind of hierarchy, or you determining that you are sort of like there's like a power struggle here and you're trying to come out on top, and you're like, you blurt something out, you could reveal something that shows like your true position on something. Basically, yeah, there's conversations going to come up around the 28th of the month for you that kind of determine like your place in the world, or like how people really see you, or how you really see the world and your perspectives at this time. So if you typically Venus transiting the first house, which it has been for you, Capricorn, since November even, is a really good time to get a makeover. However, when Venus is retrograde, we typically reconsider or reevaluate that makeover, because our values were probably like being reassessed. If you have gotten a makeover or changed your look drastically in the month of December and you're not really happy with it, you could blame the Venus retrograde. However, if you want to get a makeover now that Venus is moving direct on the 29th, this is a good time to do it. This would be the time to get it, the makeover. This is also on the 29th of December or 29th of January, when we're moving forward at this time with a greater sense of who we are, how we want to portray ourselves to the world, and all of those things. Have a great month, Capricorn rising. Aquarius rising. Jupiter, planet of growth, expansion, and generosity, is going to be transiting your second house of money, resources, skills, and assets for the most part of 2022. So that's that kind of expansion story you can expect for that time. So the new moon on the 2nd of the month is happening in your 12th house of Capricorn, Aquarius rising. So let's just say that the month of January, there is going to be a lot of activation of your 12th house by transiting planets. So this new moon in the 12th house is opening some sort of a window or portal, a new initiation phase around 12th house topics such as like mental health practices, spiritual practices, meditation, time spent alone. This new moon is going to trine Uranus, which is in your 4th house on the 2nd of the month. So Uranus and new moon trine is going to bring about like pleasant surprises, random occurrences between like 4th house topics and 12th house topics. This could be like making a new altar for yourself in your home, 4th house, that is going to benefit your spiritual practice. This could also be something like your family or people you live with saying, hey, we're going on a spiritual treat, or we're doing like a group meditation. Do you want to do it? This could also be like new energy that seems like kind of random insofar as like some sort of a health retreat or like a solitary retreat I'm seeing. So the 8th to the 10th of the month, this is when we have like a benefic blessing occurring in your 12th house when the Sun and Venus conjoin together between the 8th and the 10th of January in your Capricorn 12th house. So this is bringing about like benefic influence here, a blessing. You could get a new yoga mat delivered at this time. You could get a call back from a therapist you've been wanting to work with, something good that's coming through with like your spiritual practice or your mental health practices. Again, more focus on the 12th house, like basically all of January for you, Aquarius rising. The 15th to the 17th of January is the most intense part of the month for the collective I'm seeing. The Sun will be joining forces in a conjunction with Pluto in your 12th house. So the Sun will be exposing things. Pluto is all about intense transformation, death, rebirth, and themes of survival even. It will be perhaps a more dramatic period around your mental health practices, or you may really start to feel resentful or just have the ick about what you can see the Sun being exposed in terms of like power structure, unhealthy power dynamics, manipulation, and exploitation. Whether or not this is in your personal life or your professional life, you might be just seeing that in the collective, and it's really like turning you off. It's really making you want to just retreat and pull yourself away from the world and all that kind of like ickiness basically and intensity. It is around now that it's going to be most obvious where power struggles and dynamics like that lie. Continuing right after, there is a full moon in Cancer on the 17th of the month. So another intense sort of alignment here. This is happening in your 6th house of physical health this time, and physical body routine, workout routine, daily routine, people that you work with, and just like your day job. This is kind of maybe representing like an ending point in some sort of a physical fitness regime you've been doing. This is representing maybe a turning point with people that you work with. Maybe somebody quits or leaves and it opens up something better for you or different for you. The 28th, we're back to this 12th house of yours, Aquarius rising. I'm sorry, it won't be like this next month, but you know, the 12th house is more of a difficult house to have activated by transit. The 28th, we have Mercury, which is retrograde at this time, joining and conjoining with Pluto. So more Plutonian heavy energy. Not exactly heavy, but at least transformational and quite intense. So this is Mercury retrograde with Pluto. The likelihood for something to be blurted out. The 12th house deals with secrets. This could be a time where like a huge secret is revealed by you, or you're hearing of a huge secret or something like that. This could also represent some sort of a very important conversation that you have around spirituality and your connection to the divine, which in fact kind of like ultimately transforms you. This is when you want to be outspoken and truthful as well around this time of the month. January 29th, Venus, after her 40-day retrograde at this point, will begin stationing direct and moving forward again. So during the 40-day retrograde up until this point, let's say Aquarius rising the 29th, this is all happening in your 12th house again. You have kind of like been redefining, reaffirming your values around spirituality, around your own mental health and all of those issues. Now you're ready to move forward in the world again, and you're probably feeling like by the 29th 9th of January, okay, now I'm ready to be more social. Now I have had my solitary time. I've had my kind of spiritual breakthrough, and now I'm kind of ready to live that into the world as such. Okay, Aquarius rising, have a great 2022, and I'll catch up with you again soon. Now we've got, last but not least, Pisces rising. Okay, well, Pisces, Jupiter, planet of growth, expansion, generosity, and opportunity, is going to be in your first house for the most of 2022. Like I said before, this is main character energy, as Jupiter is going to be expanding your identity, how people see you, and also like how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your place in the world. You have more opportunities to be seen for who you are. That's just an overall tone for 2022 that I really like for Pisces rising. Let's bring it back to January. On the 2nd of January, we're opening that month with a new moon in Capricorn. This is going to be in your 11th house of groups of friends, goals and aspirations, the community you're a part of or create, also teams, societies, organizations that you're a part of. So this is where a lot of the focus for January is going to be for Pisces rising. There is a lot of activation by transiting planets to your 11th house this month. This new moon on the 2nd, though, is trining Uranus in your 3rd house. 3rd house is information processing, social media, information we take in, our lives of our siblings, and just our neighborhood, our hood in general. So I'm seeing like potentially like friends getting together, the opportunity for new beginnings, new friendships being formed around the 11th, even if these are online or something like that. They seem to be beneficial. This trine is creating harmony, but it seems random. It seems surprise. You're like, oh, I wouldn't expect to be talking to them online or something like that. But yeah, there's like an opening in making new friends or forming new alliances. And I think a lot of this is done online or people that you live near, like in your local community, town or city or hood. On the 8th to the 10th of the month, this is a nice beneficial alignment happening in your 11th house. The Sun and Venus will form conjunction in your 11th house of friends, societies, all those things we talked about. So this is a blessing coming through in that area of your life. Your goals and aspirations are here. So something might materialize about a goal that you've had. You make a new friend, your chess team wins the tournament, the kind of public speaking society you're part of, you step out into the forefront and you're received really well. Just think of this as good vibes in your 11th house around the 8th to the 10th of the month. The most intense part of January for me seems to be the 15th to the 17th, and this is just for the collective overall. There is the Sun and Pluto conjoining in your 11th house again. Pisces rising. Okay, so the Sun exposes, brings clarity to, just shines a light on overall and illuminates. Pluto, of course, power struggles, dynamics of control, exploitation, obsession, manipulation. So around the 15th to the 17th, it's the most intense time of the month so far. I just see this as like being when we become aware of any power struggles or sort of manipulation there. This is happening in your 11th house. So again, if there's any kind of like exploitation going on that chess team that you're just not happy with, this is when it's going to become obvious. This is also giving you more energy and sense of like, I will achieve this, determination around 11th house topics. So anything to do with friendship groups, societies, teams, organizations you're a part of, or even your overall community aspirations and goals that you have this desire to do it and to really be in control of it at that point. So again, the intensity just continuing on the 17th of the month. Directly after this Sun-Pluto conjunction, there is a full moon. So a time of intense emotion and kind of changeability perhaps on the 17th of the month in your Cancer 5th house. Of fun, of joy, of celebration, of children if you have them, of creative self-expression. This represents a high point in your creativity. It also represents some sort of an ending point on like having too much of a good time, I think, and now you're like sober. It's kind of like sobering here because you're like back to reality in some sense around the 17th of the month. But I just see some sort of a high point in terms of some sort of creative self-expression you're working on. Or if you have children, a high point or turning point in their lives that that applies to you. On the 28th of January, Mercury, which is retrograde at this point, so malfunctioning we could say, is going to join forces again with Pluto. Oh, Pluto. This is happening again in your 11th house of friends, of societies, Mercury being communication. So can we expect some sort of a dramatic outburst with Pluto's influence there, with a friend, with a society? If you're part of a large community, you're hearing some truth bombs, you're hearing some revelatory facts and information at this time, which makes you become aware of, again, power dynamics, manipulation, all of these Plutonian things. You could just have more conversations that are quite deep about like sex or even death and your own mortality with friendship groups or the community you're part of around the 28th of the month. Finally, 29th of the month sees Venus stationing retrograde after, at this point, her 40-day retrograde cycle. So this is again happening in your 11th house, Pisces rising. This is at this point now, when we have, by the time we've gotten to the 29th of January, we will have been through a retrograde cycle of Venus in this area of our life, redefining, reaffirming, reassessing, reestablishing what our values are in terms of who we surround ourselves with in our friend, social circle, what our goals are, what our aspirations for the community we're a part of are, what we want to create for the community at large. And if you're part of any teams, organizations, you might have just been rethinking if you still want to be in this team. Do I still want to be on this chess team anymore? At this point, you have decided what your values are in this area of your life. They may have even changed drastically, who knows, but you're moving forward and putting yourself back into the world after the 29th of January with like a reaffirmed set of values around 11th house topics overall. Thanks for watching. See you soon, Pisces rising.